Lots and lots and lots of product announcements. It's Friday, April 15th, and you'll hear about all of them and more this week in Star Wars. This Week in Star Wars is your source for new and noteworthy developments from the galaxy far, far away. I'm your host, Matt Fox, and let's start with this week's collecting news. Several of the major Star Wars licensees announced new products over the past week. This began with Gentle Giant's announcement last week that available for pre-order were the new Kit Fisto mini bust, the next in the line of jumbo vintage figure reproductions, which is the Death Squad Commander, and lastly, a statue of Jess Gistang, a female stormtrooper from the Star Wars Legacy comic series. She is also available in a Premier Guild member exclusive version with an alternate head sculpt. Aside from that exclusive version of Jess Gistang, all of these products are available widely for pre-order on numerous online retailers or from the Gentle Giant website. The other principal producer of high-end Star Wars collectibles, Sideshow Collectibles, also announced this week that their Comic-Con exclusive 12-inch figure was going to be a clone commander, that's a yellow clone, from Attack of the Clones. Comic-Con attendees will be able to pre-order the figure from the Sideshow website on June the 2nd, while non-attendees will be able to reserve theirs the following day on June the 3rd. Sideshow also released answers on a couple of Q&A questions, which revealed some upcoming Star Wars product for 2012. This includes a General Grievous 12-inch, as well as several unspecified Separatist droids, a Barriss Ophi, and a Shaq T 12-inch figure. These products will join an already crowded 2012, as Sideshow has already announced in prior Q&As this year that a Tusken Raider, Episode 1 Obi-Wan Kenobi, a Commander Gree, an IG-88, and a Boba Fett 12-inch figure would be coming out, or at least previewed, during this year, as well as an Isla Sakura, a new Darth Vader, and a MoMA Hammerhead Nadon premium format figure. Details of the Comic-Con exclusive, as well as the full text of the Q&A answers, are available on the Sideshow website, sideshowtoy.com. While it was announced several weeks ago that the Star Wars license is a veritable license to print money for Hasbro, it was announced this week that in general, the largest toy maker in the country is not doing quite as well. Profits were reported to be down 71% for the first quarter of 2011 compared to the first quarter of 2010. More specifically, profits fell from $58.9 million during the 2010 period to only $17.2 million this year. Given that operating revenue remained fairly constant over the 2 years, Hasbro has pointed to the difficulties in launching the Hub TV network and the associated costs as a reason for the loss in profit. You can do your part to ameliorate Hasbro's pain and suffering, as there are a number of sales this week on Hasbro products. This includes a buy one, get one 50% off sale on all Star Wars Hasbro product at Toys R Us, which begins today, Friday the 15th, and runs through tomorrow, Saturday the 16th. It is available in stores and online. Hasbro itself is stepping up and offering an online coupon for print, which will give you $2 off any Star Wars purchase of $10 or more. These coupons are available online and are available at Hasbro.com. Lego.com this week let pictures leak of an upcoming Star Wars Ultimate Collector's Series product. This is the Super Star Destroyer, which will include 5 minifigures, including an Imperial officer, Darth Vader, Dengar, IG-88, and Boba Fett. No word on the pricing, availability, or number of pieces in the set, although it does look to be extraordinarily huge and will no doubt run several $100s based on past LEGO practices. When Wizards of the Coast lost the license to the Star Wars collectible card game last year, it was considered by many to be only a matter of time before a new licensee picked it up. That turns out to have been the case, as it was announced this week that Topps, one of the oldest Star Wars affiliated manufacturers, would be releasing this year Star Wars The Clone Wars Adventures collectible card game. No information on the level of detail or how gameplay is conducted, although there are some promotional materials available on Topps.com. While you're at Topps.com, you can also learn about the two other new Star Wars products that they introduced, neither of which are trading cards. These include a second series of the Star Wars dog tags. This series features actual photos of Star Wars characters from the original live-action films. These follow on the heels of the first series of dog tags, which featured Clone Wars animated characters. The third product of the non-trading card Troika announced by Topps this week was Star Wars Power Plates, which appear to be miniature license plates with Star Wars imagery and text. No further details or price point are available, although a picture of a few sample plates are available on Topps.com. This week's publishing news: StarWars.com announced that DK, publisher of child-oriented Star Wars books, would be having a Attack of the Authors East Coast tour beginning in May. Authors Ryder Wyndham, Chris Reef, Chris Trevis, and Jason Fry will be joined by Ashley Eckstein, Ahsoka Tano from the Clone Wars, at various book resellers and public schools along the East Coast, beginning in Massachusetts on May the 7th and concluding May the 15th in Miami, Florida. Details are available on StarWars.com. Also on StarWars.com this week was the first look at the upcoming Star Wars art collection, Star Wars Art Comics. In much the same vein as last year's Star Wars Visions, this book will collect some of the best comic art from the history of Star Wars comics. It will also include a number of new commissioned pieces specifically done for this collection. It will be available this fall, and again, like Star Wars Visions, will also be accompanied by a limited edition of 500 copies with some additional artwork, and those will be signed by the artists. For those of you looking to read something more immediately, Dark Horse this week published the trade paperback of Star Wars Invasion's Rescue, which compiles the 6 issues of that story arc. A number of children's-themed Clone Wars books have been published or will be published next week, including a Star Wars Jedi Adventures in 3D book. Next week also sees the return to publication of Dark Horse Presents, an anthology collection by the comic publisher. This premiere issue will feature a new Crimson Empire story, so you may want to check that out at your local comic shop. Given the somewhat gloomy financial news we discussed earlier about Hasbro, they may not want to hear this, but it seems to be a real problem throughout the community, and if they rectify it, they might actually add to that bottom line. I'm talking about the apparent difficulty that a lot of Star Wars fans are having finding the new product. Since 2011 began, no less than 3 waves of Star Wars Vintage Collection figures have shipped. This is in addition to 2 waves of the Clone Wars figures. If you believe the uproar that you can find in Star Wars collecting forums across the web, and my anecdotal evidence gives me no reason to doubt that uproar, these figures are nearly impossible to find almost everywhere in the country. In fact, were it not for online retailers, I would have never seen a number of these figures, which would be unprecedented in the over 15 years that Star Wars has been back on the shelves. While collectors have come to accept this sort of lull at the end of a line, the vintage collection right now should be hitting its stride. Instead, Star Wars collectors are left to feel like they're in some sort of a rut. ThisWeekinStarWars.com has been undergoing a little bit of a facelift in recent days, and this will be going on over the next coming weeks as we add new features including photo galleries and my long-promised Star Wars figure count spreadsheet. The site remains anything but professional, much like the podcast, but hopefully it's a little bit less of an eyesore. Our contest, which I mentioned on last week's show, is still underway. If you would like to win a t-shirt, which was given away at the charity screening of the Clone Wars Savage Press episodes, all you need to do is go and leave us feedback, preferably positive, on iTunes, and then send me an email at host@thisweekinstarwars.com and tell me that you've done so. We will announce a winner on our Clone Wars Season 3 retrospective episode, which will be aired in the next couple weeks. If you're interested in appearing on that roundtable, send me an email to host@thisweekinstarwars.com and let me know. All you need to do is be able to speak about Clone Wars Season 3 with some confidence, have a couple of opinions on the show, and have Skype on your computer. And that was This Week in Star Wars. Join us again next week for more news, notes, and developments from the galaxy far, far away. Visit www.thisweekinstarwars.com or www.twisw.com for links to old episodes, news about the show, as well as links to some of the stories we discussed in today's program. You can follow us on our breaking news Twitter feed, TWISWcast, and we welcome comments on our Facebook page. We also welcome news suggestions, questions, and comments via email at host@thisweekinstarwars.com. Help us grow the community. If you enjoyed This Week in Star Wars, please go to iTunes and leave a positive review of the podcast. You've been listening to This Week in Star Wars. We troll the web so you don't have to.
This Week in Star Wars is not affiliated with Lucasfilm, its subsidiaries, or any other entity mentioned in this podcast. Star Wars, its characters, and creations are the property of Lucasfilm. All other trademarks are property of their respective trademark owners. This Week in Star Wars is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only. This podcast is copyright 2010 This Week in Star Wars. Invaluable technical assistance provided by WebStorm Interactive. News, comments, and questions can be directed to host@thisweekinstarwars.com. More information, links to stories presented, past episodes, and additional contact information are available at www.thisweekinstarwars.com.
Bow to your sensei. Bow to your sensei!